Hey everyone, Kirk here, aka The Geek Effect, and welcome back to Beyond the Brick. Today we're going to be taking a look at the latest addition to LEGO's gallery of licensed themes, Avatar. And no, I'm not referring to one of the greatest shows of all time. Instead, I'm referring to the 2009 blockbuster by James Cameron. With the sequel Avatar: The Way of Water arriving later this year, LEGO has released brand new sets for fans to re-experience some of the most iconic moments of the first film. As always, thanks to LEGO for providing us with these sets to give you all a first look at them. I remember watching the first movie back when it released and enjoying it very much. The world Cameron created was something truly spectacular to me, and when I heard the announcement of these sets, I was pretty intrigued. The main collection of Avatar sets consists of 4 sets total, which doesn't include the brick heads that were made for Jake Sully and his Avatar. Upon receiving these sets and getting to build them, I felt like I was able to experience the same amazement all over again, and it filled me with more excitement for the sequel, especially seeing the rough journey this story has had with releases. The first set we're taking a look at is 75571 Neytiri and Thanator vs AMP Suit Quaritch, which has a piece count of 560 pieces and will retail for $44.99 in the US. As I mentioned before, each of these sets recreates some sort of moment or area from the first film, and this one is a part of the final battle. You get to build Thanator, an AMP suit, some of the plant life on Pandora, and 2 minifigures. This is a pretty neat set to kick things off with, and the builds are pretty swell too. The build places the characters in a vibrant, plant-filled environment for Thanator to duke it out with the AMP suit. In the movie, I'd say Thanator is one of the more menacing looking creatures on Pandora, and LEGO captured the look well with all of the pieces included. Messing around with this creature, you'll find that it has articulation in the head, legs, and tail. One of the things explored in the first film is Sahelu, which is the Na'vi way of connecting with creatures and themselves. LEGO made sure this concept was there by using these flexible parts that attach to the hair pieces for all of the Na'vi minifigures. Quaritch's AMP suit was a neat build that recreates the mech at minifigure scale and with articulation in the arms, hands, legs, and feet. Accessing the cockpit is simple, and once done, you can place Quaritch inside to bring him into action. He also comes with a chainsaw and knife just like we saw in the movie. The final build takes inspiration from the Pandoran rainforest, and it uses a variety of colorful pieces to create the vibrancy of the plants that we see in the movie. I think that the parts usage here does convey the look that Cameron envisioned for the world of Pandora, but I will say that in my opinion, this much color does kind of take away from the accuracy of this scene in particular. I do believe the reason they opted for this look instead was so that all the sets could create one whole environment instead of having some dull looking areas. One of the plants actually has some exposed studs so you can attach the Thanator and have it leap over the plants, plus some of the elements also use glow in the dark pieces, just like the glowing plants we see in the movie. I do like the minifigures in this set too. Neytiri is in her attire from the final battle, and so is Quaritch. They both have some nice prints, and although the long legs may be a bit weird, I think they're a good solution to establish the height difference between the Na'vi and humans. Neytiri also comes with a bow as an accessory, which is something we see the Na'vi use consistently. To touch a bit on the building experience of the sets that we've received, I will say that they're very relaxing, but the coolest thing to me is that LEGO designed these sets with a multi-person experience in mind. Each person can choose an instruction book and numbered bags to work on a particular build in each of the sets, so this is perfect if you want to involve family or friends. When I think about it a bit more, this kind of fits some of the themes in Avatar, particularly family and working together. Our next set on the list is 75572, Jake and Neytiri's first Banshee flight, which is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. This set has a total of 572 pieces and will retail for $59.99 in the US. You have 3 main builds that are the focus of this set. 2 Banshees, which are also called Ikran, a section of floating rocks located in the Hallelujah Mountains, and 2 minifigures are included here as well. Each of the Banshees is in colors unique to them, but I wouldn't say things are too accurate with certain aspects of these builds. For instance, the underside of Neytiri's Banshee is yellow rather than that pale or darker tone we see in the movie. Another area of inaccuracy is the tubes located at the back of the Banshee's heads, because in the movie they match the colors of the creatures, but here they're a solid black. These are just some minor things I noticed, but they don't really ruin the overall look of the creatures. Each of the Banshees also has articulation in their head, neck, wings, and tail, along with a saddle to hold the spears and place the riders. The build that completes this scene is a stand with a waterfall and floating rocks. I like that they included this because it adds that extra bit of detail and character needed, rather than just having the Banshees in the set with minifigures. Besides the rocky environment and water flowing down, there are some plants here and there that brighten up the scenery, and even more so since the carrots do glow in the dark. I think these glowing carrot pieces are neat because you could definitely use these in like a sci-fi mock for radioactive carrots or something silly like that. Another fun aspect of the LEGO Avatar sets is that they have some way for the flying creatures to be midair while on display. When taking a closer look at the floating rocks, you'll find the Technic connectors that attach to the underside of the Banshees, thus bringing the scene to life even more. As for the minifigures, I'd say Jake and Neytiri are accurate to their look in the Banshee flight scene, and I love that each Na'vi minifigure we see of the same character is still unique and exclusive to its set. In the next set, we take a look at another area of the floating mountains with 75573 Floating Mountains, Site 26 in RDA Samson. This set has a piece count of 887 pieces and will retail for $99.99 in the US. The previous two sets we took a look at explored a lot of the life on Pandora, but this one dives a bit into the human life that made its home on the planet. When building the set, you get to recreate the mobile linking station, the RDA SA2 Samson, another base with a floating rock, and a total of 5 minifigures. Although it may not classify as a minifigure, LEGO also introduces a new mold for the Dire Horse, which is pretty neat. Earlier in the movie, the characters are seen operating at the main RDA location for the Avatar program, but then later transfer to a mobile site to isolate themselves from Colonel Quaritch. This is the exact location we see here in LEGO form, and it's a solid looking version. The model is mostly gray with yellow being in certain spots as seen in the film, and it's got some exterior detail as well. In the movie, Site 26 has 2 containers connected to each other, with one being for residential purposes and the other being for linking to the avatars, but with this being a smaller scale, some things were sacrificed like the other container and some of the interior details. The front door does open and you can lift the roof to get a better view of the interior. Inside, you'll find a chair in front of a screen with some info on it, a screen monitoring Jake Sully inside the linking unit, and then the linking unit as well. The design of the linking unit is rather simple, but it does get the job done. There's a control panel piece at the front, and you can open the door to place Jake Sully inside and start the linking process. For the other builds, we have the SA2 Samson and the floating mountain stand for it. Out of everything included in this set, I love the aircraft the most. The designers created an accurate model of the aircraft while keeping things nice and smooth all over. Just like in the movie, the rotors do tilt and they have blades on each of them at the top and bottom. There's a printed windscreen for the cockpit and enough space at the front for Trudy Chacon to pilot. Looking at the sides, you have some more space for some of your other minifigures, and at the front, you'll see these round tile shooters, which work pretty well, plus they come with 2 spares. The floating mountain stand has some plants at the base using more of those glow-in-the-dark elements, and a rock at the top appears to be floating using this translucent piece, and there's a Technic pin to connect the aircraft to it. When it comes to the minifigures, this set has the most included. We have Jake Sully in human form with a dual printed head that has a slight smile, and the other side has a serious face with a breathing mask on it. In my opinion, Dr. Grace Augustine is one of the more detailed minifigures in this set. She has a dual printed head with a relaxed face and then a somewhat concerned one under her breathing mask. Her torso also has some nice printing, and her legs actually reuse the legs seen on the Ellie Sattler minifigure from Jurassic Park. This is also our second minifigure for a character portrayed by Sigourney Weaver, which is cool. Trudy Chacon comes with a dual printed head that has a smirk, and the flip side has the face paint and earpiece we saw during the final battle. She's also got a white tank top and some olive green pants. The Na'vi avatars included with this set are Jake Sully's and Norm Spellman's, and these look fantastic. Jake's avatar has a head and torso that differs from the one in the Banshee set, and he comes with a bow. Norm Spellman is exclusive to this set and comes with the vest and pants we see him wear along with the spear. It would have been awesome to have the human version of Norm as well, but I think that definitely would have raised the price for this set a bit more. One of the creatures we see the Na'vi ride are the Dire Horses, and these LEGO molds look amazing. You can also have the Na'vi minifigures ride the Dire Horse by replacing the bricks with the minifigure and attaching those flexible pieces to their hair, just like the Banshees. A slight detail that would have been nice to see on these Dire Horses would have been some stripes on the legs like we see in the movie, but sadly those aren't there. For the grand finale, we have 75574, Turok Makto, and Tree of Souls. This is the biggest set in this lineup, coming in at 1,212 pieces, and it will retail for $149.99 in the US. Out of everything in this collection, this particular set has a lot of detail and is definitely one of the more beautiful sets in this lineup. Not to mention that this place is very important to the Na'vi and also plays an important role in the first film, so I'm really happy that LEGO made this set happen. The set comes with the Tree of Souls, Turok, also known as the Great Leonopteryx, 3 builds to create some surrounding environment, and 4 minifigures. The centerpiece of this set is clearly the Tree of Souls, and LEGO did a great job with this design in my opinion. Instead of having normal leaves, the tree has long pink strands hanging from it, as well as glowing moss at the base. LEGO achieved this look by using a bunch of lavender leaves and trans pink antennas, cones, and bars. The tree trunk uses a variety of pieces to create a curved shape for it, and there are also a couple of vines wrapping around it. At the base of the tree, there's some dirt and moss too, but my main complaint regarding the tree is that they didn't use glow-in-the-dark pieces for the moss. This pastel sort of color does give that glowing look, but if they had used actual glowing pieces, at least for the vines, I think this would be really cool, just like the glowing plants in the other sets. As for the environmental builds, those are divided into 3 sections but can be connected to create one whole environment. The 2 smaller sections have a mixture of rocks and more of those colorful plants, but the main attraction is definitely the middle section. This thing has an arched rock structure covered in all sorts of grass and plants, with some of them making use of those glow-in-the-dark elements. You also have a bit of space in certain areas to attach the Navi minifigures to. At the floating rocks, you'll find some vines along with a technic connection point for our final build of this set, Turok, also known as the Great Leonopteryx. Turok is by far one of my favorite creature builds in this lineup, and it's got some incredible attention to detail. It's a pretty accurate model complete with those fiery patterns and articulation all over. You can move the head and neck, open the mouth, reposition the front and back wings, and move the legs. Similar to the Banshees, you can mount a Navi minifigure on the creature and connect it to the flexible pieces, as well as mount it on the environmental build to make an epic display. One thing to make mention of is the mistake on page 29 for this part of the set, which does show pieces for the back toes being used for the front toes. I'm not sure if this mistake is in all of the instructions, but just keep that in mind when building this set. The minifigures included in this set are Jake Sully as Turok Makto, Neytiri, Sute, and Neytiri's mother, Moat. A Navi is given the role of Turok Makto after successfully mounting the Great Leonopteryx, and this isn't something that's happened too often in Navi history. Mounting the Great Leonopteryx and performing Sahelu with it isn't an easy task, but Jake Sully manages to do this and regain the trust of the Navi. This time around for Jake Sully's minifigure, we see him as he appeared during the final battle. He's got some face paint, a strap on his torso, and a bow, and this is probably one of my favorite minifigures for Jake Sully in this lineup. Sute is one of the warrior Navi who's against Jake Sully becoming a part of the Yamato clan, but throughout the film they slowly start to form a bond, especially after Jake regains his trust. We can see just how serious this minifigure is by the face on him, the clothing, and the dagger-like weapon. The minifigure for Neytiri is also different in this set. It has a very peaceful smile on her face, a change in clothing, and a bow as well. Moat is one of the older Navi in the movie, and I think her face really conveys that. She also has the dark red garments we see her in and a reddish brown staff. I never thought I'd want Avatar sets from LEGO, but after experiencing these for the first time, I can say I had a blast and would love to see more of these sets for this line. As a fan of the movie, I think a lot of things were done well with both the builds and minifigures. The way that LEGO designed these sets is also pretty clever because you could connect them in a variety of ways to make your own layout of Pandora. I'm really hoping this theme does well, especially with the sequel coming out, because I'd love to see stuff made for that second movie along with the other movies coming out in the future. And this may be a bit of a stretch too, but I'd also love to see a D2C version of Home Tree. I do hope you all enjoyed this review, and feel free to let us know your thoughts on these sets down in the comment section below, and if you're looking forward to the upcoming Avatar sequel. As always, this is Kirk, and I'll catch you all later here on Beyond the Brick.